Thank you very much. I'd like to welcome to the stage the director of the Imitation Game, Morten Tyldum. Welcome. Thank you very much. Welcome to the Apple Store.
Thank you.
Congratulations on this film. I know we're talking about this film pre the release, so I'm assuming nobody here has seen it. Has anyone happens to have seen it by some way? There are 3 people here who have seen it. Perhaps at the London Film Festival? Perhaps? Maybe we'll see. But most of you won't know, so we'll have to be a bit coy maybe about some of the story. But I mean, I can say that it's a very intelligent thriller in some senses, although it's much more than that. Also, it's both a tragedy and a celebration. What did you feel? Maybe that's the place to start, actually. What did you feel about that balance between it being a tragic story but also a celebration of a life which has been, certainly has been ignored up to a certain point?
I mean, we wanted it to be. I mean, I didn't want to make it dusty old history lesson kind of film. I mean, I wanted it to be funny. I wanted it to be engaging. I wanted it to be thrilling because that's how I felt his life was. It was so. It was such a unique and fascinating and special man, and I think his legacy deserves to be spread wide. And I mean, like most people, I love history. I thought I knew a lot about history, but I was shocked how much of Alan Turing's life I wasn't aware of. So when I read the script, and I think that's. To me, he was a mystery, and that's why I wanted to make the movie sort of like an unraveling of a mystery, of a puzzle. He was obsessed with puzzles, and this thriller that became his life. This awkward mathematician who became this British super spy in many ways, involved in MI6 and in the center of all this high top secrecy.
You mentioned legacy there, and I mean, we're sitting here in the Apple Store, so I think we should deal with legacy a bit more directly. I mean, here we are, a place where modern computing meets the public, essentially. And Alan Turing, I think at the end of the film, Alan Turing is described as, I'm probably paraphrasing, the father of modern computing. I wonder if you could pick up on that and just explain.
He was 23 years old when he wrote a paper on computable numbers that theorized the computer. This is in the 30s. And he actually theorized what a computer will be able to do and not be able to do, and it still holds true. It's what we call Turing compatible. Just the idea of creating a machine that's not only programmable, but is reprogrammable, that can, make a calculation and then decide what to do next based on that calculation. I mean, those ideas were his. He was the first to came up with these thoughts, which is remarkable. And at that age, and his achievements are, so staggering. He was obsessed with artificial intelligence and artificial life, and just to have those ideas and these visions for the future is remarkable.
And it's not something that's directly addressed in the film, but I know that it has been said that even the Apple logo is inspired by Alan Turing's life. How much do you know that to be true or not, or it's a nice idea? Or?
I don't know how much people know, but Alan Turing took his life by taking a bite of an apple, which he had covered in cyanide. So he took a bite of that, and that's how he killed himself. And there's this myth that's the Apple logo we all have, is Alan Turing's suicide apple, which is kind of mind-blowing when you think about it. And we shot that in the film. We had that scene.
Oh, really?
In the scene. But first of all, Steve Jobs has gone public and said he wished it was true. Unfortunately, it's not. So we left it out, and it took the focus a little bit away from what he wanted. I mean, it's not only just about Apple computers, even if it's today. He's sort of like the forefather for all computing. I mean, we sort of like owe him. Every time we pick up, the thing we have in our pockets or in our bags, and use it, we should think about him because he started it all. He was the one who envisioned this all and started this technology.
It's a great story, and as you say, it should be true, even if it isn't. Like many great stories, we've got a couple of clips which we're going to see during this discussion. Then we're going to open things out to you for some questions. So do think of anything you'd like to ask. If we could see the first clip, thank you very much. It comes towards the beginning of the film, and it's when Alan Turing comes for an interview at Bletchley Park, where he later works within the code-breaking team. You mentioned earlier on, actually, that one of the things you wanted to achieve with the film was that it should be funny, and it certainly is, and a lot of that comes from the presentation of Alan Turing's character, and certainly actually as that scene goes on as well. I wonder if you could talk about the personality of Alan Turing as you wanted to explore it in the film, and so especially in terms of how he interacted with other people.
I mean, he was such a fascinating, because he's such a many-layered and complex character, and he's so strong and driven and almost arrogant, and at the same time awkward and at times shy and fragile. So it's such a. I wanted this movie to be sort of like a celebration of being different, of being unique, and not, sort of like outsiders. And Alan Turing became sort of like this outsider. He's a closeted gay man in a time when it was illegal, and one who got involved in extreme secrecy. During MI6, during the time as Bletchley, his work was kept secret for decades afterwards, and nobody knew. So he's this complex, fascinating man, and his meeting with other people there's a lot of humor there, because he really crashes with people, and I think his mind just works kind of differently. The way we thought about it is that it's almost like it goes in 5 different directions all at one time, and even his mouth can keep up with his ideas and his thoughts, and it's been very fascinating for us to sort of like puzzle him together, because there's no recording of how we talked and how we walked, how we moved, how we behaved. So we sort of like have to go by descriptions and what we had is written down, and sort of like piece him together. And I think Benedict does an extraordinary job. I mean, I love shooting. It's like when the camera lingers on him, it's almost like you feel there's a million things going on behind the eyes. So Benedict's beautiful in it.
How would you describe your relationship as an actor-director in terms of what Benedict Cumberbatch was looking from you as a director, or how much you were really able to leave to him to decipher the character he wanted to play?
You have to work really close together, the whole process. I mean, I insisted on having rehearsals before, which is now getting more and more unusual. So we had 3 weeks of rehearsals to get this group together and to really, in many ways, do all the things you should not do, make all the mistakes, and create this atmosphere, create this like family unity bond where it's okay to fall on your face and be stupid and try things, and we can really push all the characters and figure out their relationships. And I think it was great for Benedict to also try out all the physicality of the part, and then talk about the script, and also have people. We also had people to give us sort of like lectures, math and how the big machine worked, which you'll see in the movie, which was kind of frightening, because you have this man coming up and he starts lecturing, and first of all, they have panic in their eye when they start to explain it, because it's really complicated, and then it goes 5 seconds and then you understand, I'm not going to get anything of this, because it's so complex. And it's so we have this process before we start filming, which is incredibly important to sort of like get everybody on board and to find out all the relationship between the characters. So and we just talked a lot about me, and I've been lucky enough to have this wonderful cast. I mean, I'm Norwegian, and I came here and worked with this phenomenal British cast. I think sort of these amazing British actors, Benedict Cumberbatch and Kira, who plays John Clark, Charles Dance, as you saw, Mark Strong, Matthew Good, Alan Leach. I mean, I can't praise them enough, and everybody wanted to do justice to Alan Turing. I think we all sort of like fell in love with him a little bit, and all wanted to do justice to him and the other characters at Bletchley Park who had this grueling task of trying to crack Enigma. They knew that people died every day. There was this insane pressure, and they did such a phenomenal job. And it was so unthankful. Everything was kept secret. Everything was burnt. They didn't. They were just sent home afterwards.
As you say, it is a terrific cast, and it's very much a case of a strong character at the heart of an ensemble in terms of the way the drama plays out. We're going to see another clip, and this clip is when Keira Knightley's character, Keira Knightley plays Joan Clark, when she's introduced to the story and also to Alan Turing. So if you can see the second clip, please.
Can I say something about, before you see the scene, what you see here is a crossword test, which is actually true. Alan Turing recruited people to MI6 with a crossword puzzle. So he sent a crossword puzzle in the Times, and he said, if you can solve this in 10 minutes, please call this phone number. which is true. And the actual crossword puzzle, which is in the film, is the one that Alan Turing made. And we all tried to solve it, and nobody else could.
I was going to ask you actually whether you tried
no.
to. Who was best at it?
Matthew Beard, I think, actually is best.
Who's that?
Matthew Beard, who plays the young man, plays Peter Hilton.
Oh yes, yeah. Thank you. Well, let's see that clip, and you'll see the introduction of the crossword puzzle as well as Joan Clark. Because you said at some point there that you saw this film as a film about outsiders. I mean, and Keira Knightley's character, Joan Clark, I mean, she's a woman in an intensely male world.
I mean, she was a woman in a time when being intelligent wasn't really appreciated for a woman. She was not allowed. She was, superbly smart mathematician who was not allowed to work as a cryptographer or anything because she was a woman. She had to be a clerk or a linguist. And it was Alan Turing who brought her up to work in the end, after a long time, to work with the other men. And it's kind of like, because she would have been, after the war, I mean, she could have been a math professor. She could have been so much, but she was not really allowed it, again, because it was, women should not do that at the time. And there's a beautiful friendship that actually led to them being engaged for 6 months. Even if he was a gay man and she was not, because they were sort of like with these two outsiders who found each other, and she became incredibly important to him during that time. And they were both not, they didn't really fit in, none of them, and they really saw that in each other. And I think Keira could really relate to that, and she's just wonderful as Joan Clark, and there's this incredible chemistry, sort of like a very modern couple in a way, because he proposed to her, and afterwards he said, "I'm gay, so I'm not sure if we should be engaged," and she said, "I don't care." It was sort of like beyond that.
You mentioned how you, in your rehearsal, you had lectures from mathematicians or scientists coming in to inform you before you went into the project. I think one of the things the film does very well is not lecture us in terms of its ideas. I mean, Alan Turing is obviously dealing with incredibly complicated mathematical, scientific ideas, but you don't present them to us in essay form, to put it crudely. I mean, did you feel that I mean, this is as much a question on behalf of the writer, I suppose, that you wanted to embed the ideas into the character, into the story?
I mean, we talked about it a lot. I mean, it's we didn't want to sort of like drag down the narrative by going, specifics on the math and on the science. But at the same time, we wanted it to be in the movie. So there are discussions about it. You will feel it. And also, the way he broke Enigma is extremely fascinating, because Enigma is unbreakable. The thing that he actually invents is what's called crib-based decryption, which means that he finds the human flaw. He understands that, okay, there actually is some words which you can expect to be there. So he has this machine trying to find the words that he thinks will be there in decrypted messages, and that's how we break them. Which actually was really, a new way of looking at it, and that's how we did it. And that whole process, how he comes to that, is part of the movie. And I think Alan Turing is also very as fascinating as a philosopher as he is a mathematician. I mean, his ideas on what it means to the Imitation Game, which is the paper he wrote, deals with what it means to be human, what it means to think, what makes us human. Because he's, and it comes to that. So how can we say a machine cannot be human if it then can think to a level which we can? And what does it mean to be that? And it's really fascinating. We are only human to the degree that we can convince other people that we are. And what makes us then different from a machine. So his thoughts and ideas are really fascinating.
We've only got 5 minutes left, so I'd like to open things up to the audience. I believe there's a microphone going around, so who'd like to ask a question? Who'd like to kick things off? There must be a question out there lurking. Anything?
Hi, you've talked a little bit about the sort of mathematical elements implementing to the film. Was most of that sort of built into the script, or was there a lot that you had to sort of think about with sort of expert advice to try and sort of get that accurate?
We did a lot of research during the script making. I mean, Graham Moore, who wrote the script, did a lot of that beforehand. So it was all part of the script. We come before. So I think both Graham and we spend a lot of time reading up on it, so to make sure that it is accurate and we actually represent his ideas. The math expert we had was like, there's a lot of math symbols. Every time there's anything like a number or anything, equation or anything in the film, we wanted to have somebody there who actually can make sure that we did it right. We wanted to make it as accurate as possible. Like all the Enigma machines you see in the movie is actual Enigma machines from the Nazis that was used during the war. The big machine he built is based on the real machine he built. It's the school Alan Turing went to. The scenes from him and when he was at school and was a young boy is the actual school he went to, which are a lot of the interiors at Bletchley. So a lot of that was really important for us, that make things accurate. This is, we wanted to do justice to his legacy and make it right.
Thank you very much. So another question down here.
Hello, good evening. Actually, do you have any advice for new directors and actors?
Wow, that's
Advice.
a big one. That's a big one.
Just something, just one advice.
Everybody is individual. Every actor, every director has become a director or actor by following their own path. I think the only thing you can do is to be passionate and really true to what you really care about. Don't try to do anything which you don't believe in because you think it's the right thing to do. And just follow your own way and your own instinct and your own passion. I mean, it's an art form, and there's no right way, and there's no wrong way. The only thing you can be is be passionate and just do things you feel is important.
We're going to have to finish. Oh no, there is one more question there. Please, yes. Let's get the microphone along. Thank you.
Anyway, I would like to thank you first for giving a hero of LGBT community because there is not much of movies about some sort of people like this. And also my question: what besides a book of from Andrew Hodges inspired you to direct this movie?
Besides from the book, I mean,
thank you.
Thank you. The thing that inspired me to do it is his whole life story is so fascinating. It's not really. Andrew Hodges wrote a very important biography on his life, but the way we structure the movie is unique to this film. Andrew Hodges more gives sort of like a telling of his whole life in more detail, which you can do in the book. One of the things is, of course, the great injustice that happened to him. He was literally crucified by the own government that he actually saved, being a gay man, and then convicted for being gay in gross indecency and having to choose between prison or chemical castration. There was a time when being gay was looked upon as a disease, something that could be cured. So medical treatment was something you could choose to sort of like cure you from which ravaged his body, ravaged his mind, and this brilliant genius could not really work anymore, and ending up killing himself. So in many ways a tragedy. This man shortened the war. Winston Churchill has said that Alan Turing did the single most important achievement during the war. His achievement shortened the war. He saved millions of lives. And because it was kept secret, he never got an official thank. And he was being convicted just because he was gay. And it's injustice to it is just staggering and mind-blowing.
Thank you very much. We will have to bring things to an end. I just want to remind people that the film does open in cinemas this Friday, November the 14th. So please do see it if you've been inspired by what Morten had to say about the film tonight. Morten Tyldum, thank you very much for the Imitation Game.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for coming.
Evening. Thank you.
It was so... it was such a unique and fascinating and special man, and I think his legacy deserves to be spread wide. And I mean, like most people, I love history. I thought I knew a lot about history, but I was shocked how much of Alan Turing's life I wasn't aware of. So when I read the script.
Thank you very much. I'd like to welcome to the stage the director of The Imitation Game, Morten Tyldum. Welcome. Thank you very much. Welcome to the Apple Store.
Thank you.
Congratulations on this film. I know we're talking about this film pre the release, so I'm assuming nobody here has seen it. Has anyone happens to have seen it?
And I think that's, to me, he was a mystery, and that's why I wanted to make the movie sort of like an unraveling of a mystery, of a puzzle. He was obsessed with puzzles, and this this thriller that became his life. This awkward mathematician who became this British super spy in many ways.
Tragic story, but also a celebration of a life which has been, well, certainly has been ignored up to a certain point.
I mean, we wanted it to be. I mean, I didn't want to make it dusty old history lesson kind of film. I mean, I wanted it to be funny. I wanted it to be engaging. I wanted it to be thrilling because that's how I felt his life was.
Seen it by some way? There are 3 people here who have seen it. Perhaps at the London Film Festival? Perhaps? Maybe we'll see. But most of you won't know, so we'll have to be a bit coy maybe about some of the story. But I mean, I can say that it's a very intelligent thriller in some senses, although it's much more than that. Also, it's both a tragedy and a celebration. What did you feel? Maybe that's the place to start, actually. What did you feel about that balance between it being a